Good afternoon, everybody. It's another week of Overwatch University questions, and I'm going to answer the most upvoted of the last week. Here we go. Top upvoted question of the week is, am I missing something, or do people just play Mercy completely wrong in the low ranks? Hi, I'm a high diamond, low masters tank player. Very nice. I'd like to think because of this, I have a pretty decent knowledge about the game, especially when I DPS. So occasionally I'll play DPS or support, and on DPS, I'm mid gold. If we have a Mercy, I never ask for a pocket. I don't really care that much. Now, I don't expect a pocket, but if you're gonna play Mercy, surely you should be pocketing one of the DPS. Most of the time, she ends up heal botting the tank, and sometimes I say, if you're gonna play Mercy, please at least pocket one of the DPS. Then they normally respond with, well, I have the most healing in the lobby. But realistically, a good Mercy should have the least healing, right? That depends on your team comp, but we'll get there. Because they should be spending the majority of the game damage boosting one of the DPS, but they just think because they have a lot of healing, they're playing well. By the way, I DPS duo a lot with the mate, and he says he isn't getting pocketed either. So if you're gonna heal bot on Mercy, I'd rather you just play any other support because I feel like you're essentially doing nothing. I don't mind having a Mercy, but at least play her properly. Am I wrong? I would say no, you're not wrong. That is not optimal Mercy. You're playing in gold, so you're gonna have maybe some Mercies who know how to play a bit more optimally because they consume a lot of Mercy content and understand the hero better, but if not, you will probably find Mercies who are not playing ideally. And you're right, that Mercy should, for the most part, be damage boosting and pocketing one of the DPS. That is ideal, but I feel like the psychology of a casual gold Mercy player who doesn't watch any content would want to just feel like they're contributing to the fight, and healing a tank and seeing their HP bar go from middle to high can feel like they're doing something. But obviously that puts the Mercy in the front line because they're both the tank. It can get punished, and when they do, they may not realize it, but that's, again, you're playing in gold. There's going to be a lot of casual players who didn't have a lot of casual Mercy players who didn't have the benefit of having a great DPS to pocket in the past, especially if you're duo DPS. That Mercy solo queuing, so they're not pocketing like a friend who they know is going to be popping off, so they may have blue beamed and damage boosted DPS heroes in solo queue. Haven't had great results with it because it feels like the DPS players take damage boost, don't do any damage, and they're not consistent. They don't hit their shots, so their instinct is to go for the tank. So again, you're not wrong, but I don't actually necessarily blame them. That's just the way the cookie crumbles here. And instead of looking back and being like, why is this, it's totally fine for you to be like you would prefer them to play something else, but my take on this is focus on yourself. You will still be able to win the games whether you have the Mercy with you or not, and you won't have a Mercy every game, so in the games you don't, you pop off, and if you do what you can, the resources in front of you, you'll still be able to climb out, especially because you're like a diamond, or you said a master's tank. You have the game sense to bring yourself out of that regardless of who they play in the back line. What are the actual fundamentals of Overwatch? Basically, it seems like there's no clear way to rank up. Now hear me out. I've been playing Overwatch since 2022, and I still don't understand this game. In Valorant, a game picked up only 5 months ago, there's clear fundamentals, things like movement, peeking, and economy, and raw aim, and these are all things we can work on to escape silver. In Overwatch, despite watching many guides and videos, it's always felt like a nothing burger. They say this and that, but when I actually get into a match, I don't even know how to apply it. In one ear, out the other. It's worse when I watch high rank players because it appears they do the complete opposite of the advice I hear. I played Pharah and went from bronze to gold in a week and a half. I went back to do my placements on console, and I'm still gold 3. The issue is I don't understand why or like what I was doing that was making me win. All I knew is that I played Pharah or Ashe and ranked up. I'm currently ranked silver 5 on PC. What are the fundamentals of Overwatch, and what is essential to know in your ranked journey? Okay, for an actual, silver player, I would break down Overwatch personally in a few basic fundamentals. Uptime, which is your ability to stay alive. Uptime and downtime, excuse me. Two things. What is uptime? Uptime is just your time alive on the battlefield, using resources and, hitting the enemy team and trying to win the objective. Downtime is when you're, backing off, not doing anything for the battlefield, not taking a position, or of course dying. That's the worst type of downtime. Uptime means staying alive, and how do you increase your uptime while decreasing the enemy's downtime? That's your fundamentals. If I am a Baptiste player, support player, I want to stay alive as long as possible, have the highest amount of uptime. If I'm walking into the front lines and dying and not using natural cover or have good movement to hopefully strafe and minimize some abilities or bullets and stuff hitting me, that will probably decrease my uptime. If I want to decrease the enemy's uptime, I apply pressure and shoot them, or I heal a teammate that is doing that for me. Like my tank walking up and taking space, I'm pocketing him so that he can walk forward and hopefully decrease their uptime in the battlefield by making them run away, or of course killing them. So that's why I always mention things like pressure as well, no matter what role you're playing on. Even if you're a support, if I'm a Baptiste player and I see this random Pharah in the distance here while my tank is here, I will literally shoot one heal on my tank, look up, just shoot one triple bullet on the Pharah, especially if she's not out of position. Like she's kind of far away, but just a little pew 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 in the distance, and then keep looking at my tank. That one pew 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 in the off angle really shortly, anybody in my LOS, that applies pressure and makes them think, oh, I can't stand out in the open. I want to back out a little bit. You decrease the amount of space and the amount of uptime they can take from your team. That's like the actual base fundamentals. And obviously with each uptime downtime term, you can break it down into like how you use your resource management, how to use your abilities, weave them in, track their ultimates, use natural cover. You just want to decrease the amount of damage you're taking in as many ways as possible. So that's movement, understanding what ultimates they have so you know how to dodge or react to them, and ability management. And then your offensive pressure is, you know, your raw aim and your positioning and the angles you take where they're not looking. And if you start with those concepts and learn one little thing each time, that'll slowly help you build those building blocks and fundamentals of Overwatch. So take it one step at a time. What can I do to stop dying first? And what can I do to help them, to make them die? And that's what people like to look at first. How do I stop dying? I stop walking out of position. How do I make them die more? Get better aim. But of course, we can break that down to many other things, like I said, but start with that. Why does Symmetra have so many weaknesses compared to other characters, and why is she the only close range hero with bad sustain? Compare to Reaper, Mei, Venture as example. All of them have some sort of get out of jail free card and sustain, but Symmetra has nothing. She just walks around with her beam without something fast like mobility or sustain that support her short range. I kind of liked it though if she was an actual glass cannon, but she isn't with the horrible damage and TTK she has, TTK being time to kill. Also, that was a grammar bomb that I just read out. Hopefully you understood what I was saying when I was reading this person's post. Why I've always found it weird that people complain about Sim because of the amount of weaknesses she has. She is pretty easy to shut down. Okay, let's just focus on your main question. Why does Symmetra have so many weaknesses compared to other heroes? I would say Symmetra isn't actually great right now. You're right. I think Symmetra is a very niche hero and is used in very specific niche situations, and she's not a generalist. A generalist is like a tracer or a sojourn or maybe like a soldier where you can kind of play them in many comps, but Symmetra is completely niche because A, she depends on map geometry, especially if she wants to set up turrets in the right spots. So very open maps are not very good with her, but sometimes on Control or King of the Hill maps, very closed fights with good geometrical terrain can be great and ideal for her for her turret setups. And then B, if you're not going that route, you need to be in like a complete 5-stack. She's like designed to be like, if you want to do like move around with the teleporter, you need to be coordinated with an entire group, and she can work there. But as a generalist in a solo queue, people aren't coordinated with your teleporters to make some team plays. That's never going to work. And then C, like you said, her burst damage isn't good anymore because of the HP changes in Season 9, which means you do have to hit 3 shots to kill somebody because each fully charged orb only does 100. Back then, when it was back at 100 with 2 taps, 100, you were able to, 2-shot a squishy hero if you were able to land any back-to-back shots at full charge, and if they got no healing. But now with the HP changes, that burst damage or pokey playstyle where you just poke is kind of gone. And then the beam is very conditional on the enemy tanks and what the enemy team plays. And if your team has resources to help get you in and protect you while you do it, like Lucio speed, and then if they have like a Winston bubble you can charge off of for a Sigma shield or like a Rhine shield, it's very, very specific situation. So Symmetra, you're right, does have a lot of weaknesses. She has like 3-4 different playstyles, like the turret style, poke style, beam style, and they all don't really complement her very well. I think her kit is like 3 or 4 different directions. You have to pick one depending on the specific niche scenario. But like even that one by itself, if you were gonna go in that one direction, you might as well pick another hero that does that one role, like a very pokey hero or a very like upfront close bursty, like the beam Symmetra, you might as well play Reaper if you're gonna get in close. If you're playing poke with the secondary fire burst damage, you might as well play a stronger poke like Soldier, where you just stand there and just poke, 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 poke. Why she has so many weaknesses, that's just her design. It's less about why she has so many weaknesses and what can Blizzard do about it, because I do think she needs a new identity. And a lot of Symmetra players have been saying this. I've read a couple posts about it, and I've been hearing it everywhere from Sim mains. They're not happy with where she stands right now. So I feel you on this one. Who counters Junker Queen? I'm just shy of 200 hours on this game. I decided to try out tank yesterday and played a few hours of JQ. She's a really fun hero. I would like to continue playing her. I just want to know what enemy heroes to watch out for. Only one I know for sure is Orisa, since enemy tank I fight swaps her as soon as my team starts winning. But to be fair, Orisa counters everything. I would say right now for the tanks, Orisa just got nerfed. Maybe it won't be as bad, but I think Zarya's a great tank choice that can mess you up because the bubbles completely cleanse your bleed, can cleanse your anti and your ultimate. And if it cleanses your axe or like the bleed damage, you don't heal as much. So Zarya's kind of annoying. I actually think Diva's actually not that bad against Queen as well. You can, matrix a lot of the damage and the knife and pressure, and then as a diva you have the choice to fly away. Like, you have the agency because you have vertical mobility and Junker Queen doesn't. Junker Queen's a very flat horizontal hero with no movement ability, except if you play the April Fool's mode. That's a little different. What was I gonna say? For DPSs, probably anything that outranges Junker Queen, so like Pharah, Echo, like Widowmakers in the very, very far back line can just like headshot you no matter what, and you have to play like cover to cover. Anything like that, anything long range, because Queen's biggest weakness is range as well. And then for support, probably Kiriko. Got to watch for the Suzu. Cleanses your ultimate completely, or your axe swings, your bleeds. I would say Lucio is really good. If you actually watch any high level Lucio players in Queen matchups, they save boop specifically for the wind up animation of the Carnage or the axe swing. The great Lucio players can hear that wind up and know when to boop exactly when that happens. Anna can anti-nade you pretty well. Lifeweaver can pull some people away or lift some people up to dodge you, can keep you out of range. So I'd say those are the heroes that sort of counter, or I think counter is a really strong word. Those are the heroes that are ideal to help play against this matchup. Let's go with that. Anyone else stops at Masters? I feel like the atmosphere changes and gets more tense and everyone's way more aggressive with communication. It could just be in my head. Also, I get accused of cheating anytime I land more than 4 headshots with Cass, who I've been one-tricking since Overwatch 2. Or called a Smurf. On the other side, if I have a bad game, I get called out, and in that case, my account is bought or paid for somebody to carry me. Like, what is going on? Like in Diamond, people are still having fun most of the time. Well, this experience is going to be subjective for everybody, but right now, Masters is full of players that were, formerly top 500 and GM players who are kind of like in the middle ranks. GM is very hard to get into right now. I think if you look in the leaderboard, it's like only like 110 people right now, and the rest are in Masters. Mostly because of the early season, a lot of people haven't finished their placements, but you can see at the end of the last season, after the new reset, GM5 was the cutoff, and I think even Masters 1 for some regions. So Masters is like that very, very hard rank to get into, where you're going to have a different experience every game, where people will really flame you and call you boosted if you don't play well. If you play really well, people will just, deflect and call you a cheater. It's going to be a rough time. There's a huge skill gap right now in Masters. I mean, I fell to Masters. I'm literally like, I fell from GM4 to Masters 2 right now, and I'm just like kind of like playing in and out. Like Emong's in GM5, like he was peaking like GM1 or whatever, but he's up and down. Almost fell back to Masters. My teammate J3, he was up in GM3, 4, and now he fell back down to Masters 2. Like that whole Masters 2 and above is full of like really solid players. So it's going to be a different wild mix of games for a while, so you're gonna have an interesting time. I'd also like to make this analogy similar to chess. I actually saw it in the comments here, so shout out to that. When I was quickly browsing this before, they're saying like in chess, hitting like Masters, you're like top 95%, right? But to hit like that next echelon, people are really serious. You have to put in that same amount of work for smaller gains. To get from 95 to like 96, 97%, that extra 2% is like the same amount of work that it took you to get 95. So that it's gonna get exponentially more difficult for smaller gains. So as you climb in Masters, it's going to be even more difficult. So good luck. It might stop at Masters for you, but I believe you can make it all the way through to GM. How to deal with a good Doomfist. It's very rare I face someone who's good with Doom. That being said, when they know how to use them, it's just a nightmare for my team. I feel like nobody knows what to do, and it's just a 5v1. I can counter him as Sombra, but it's usually me and the rest of my team is cowering in the spawn room. Okay, good Doomfist is shut down with good pre-fight pressure and an understanding of his cooldowns. I can't vent enough about the people who shoot the power blocking Doom. It's like whenever Doom blocks, like don't shoot the Doom, but then everybody decides to put a little damage because they want to just do a little trickle of damage to kind of like hopefully not give him charge, but enough to pressure him a little bit. But then when everyone's thinking that same thing, we just inevitably charge the Doom, and then he's able to reset his punch and roll us. The only time it's good to shoot the blocking Doom is if he's already like less than 100 HP or less than 200 HP. You can actually burst him pretty quickly. But dealing with good Doom is going to take an understanding of his abilities. So if he's ever seismic slamming, if you have the ability to dodge it, you should. Don't let him ramp up his over health, because every time he hits a hero with an ability, he gets an extra like 40 over health. So if I'm a Baptiste or a Kiriko, if I'm a Baptiste, I'll do a little mini hop in the air when I see him slamming in slowly. Mini hop in the air to at least give enough distance so he doesn't get any over health off of me, doesn't get any damage on me, so he doesn't build his ultimate as quick. As a Kiriko, I'll quickly tap the wall climb really quickly to minimize that damage. And then if you know where Doomfist is setting up, pressuring him before in the pre-fight is going to be really, really one of the most effective ways to stop him. If I'm a Baptiste and I see Doom kind of jiggle peeking, poking with his shotguns, like I will shoot him back. And as he's in his slam animation, I don't stop shooting. So by the time he lands, he can't even feel safe enough to go for that initial punch because he's already less than half health. So his instinct is to block. So wait for this sort of engagement and then you can just all in him. If you have any stuns like Roadhog's a great pick into Doom. As soon as he comes in, just hook, stun him, kill him, hook him out of block and all that stuff. But yeah, Doomfist is all about applying pressure and minimizing the effects of his cooldown. So stop shooting the block, avoid the slam damage, and pressure him. How are support players feeling after this patch? I'm going to be honest, I'm not having a good time. I don't really feel like playing anymore since I only enjoy playing support. Dive is fun when your team is the one diving and getting picks, but it's been meta for so long. I'm sick of playing Kiriko and Moira just so I can survive and somewhat play the game. Mercy, Ana, and Break feel terrible to play. I can't keep my tanks up because I'm constantly being dove by the one clip by tracers while getting flamed in team chat for no heals. I can play Lucio and Zem, but I still have the same problem of not being able to stay alive, and my tanks will just pick something like a Ryan or Malga and die in less than a second. I don't know, maybe it's just a skill issue. I just wish I could play the characters I'm best at without feeling like I'm playing Dead by Daylight. I'm gonna be honest, support kind of feels the same to me. The only change is the DPS passive is back to the beginning of season 9 at 20%. I think it doesn't change for me because I'm not really a heal botter, so I don't really feel like I'm always on the back foot healing someone and getting flamed for it, because I adjust my playstyle, I adapt, and I encourage support players to do the same. There's going to be games where it's correct to heal bot, and despite getting DPS passive, it might be the right choice to top them off as fast as you can, or having a dynamic adaptive playstyle means you recognize that it's better to take an aggressive angle and pressure the enemies. Now, you mentioned about survivability, and I won't lie, you're right on that. You wrote, I can play Lucio and Zen and I have problems staying alive. Zen, I can understand. Lucio, I disagree. Lucio is one of the safer picks. You said Kiriko and Moira is safe, but Lucio is equally safe. That one might be a skill issue for Lucio specifically, but playing Kiriko and Moira isn't wrong right now. Same with Lucio, simply because they have higher survivability, and that part is true. I won't lie, the way the patch goes, those are just better picks. You wrote Mercy, Ana, Break feel terrible. I would agree with the Mercy part. Ana as well. At the high ranks, I would actually rate her like B or C tier still. Brig is just situational as well. You know, maybe it's because I've only been one tricking Kiriko because I had to play it for my team. I don't mind it, so it feels the same after this patch, but that's kind of how it was before this patch too. You still kind of played like Dead by Daylight because Tracer is the server admin in a lot of these lobbies that I'm used to, and it seems like you're having problems with Tracer. I would agree, and that's why you just play Kiriko. It's not different, but I can see why you're not having a good time. Hero pool advice: Winston, Sigma, and question mark. I feel very comfortable with my two favorite heroes, Winston and Sigma. Between them, they cover a lot of situations, but there are maps that seem too tight to benefit from Winston's mobility or to let Sigma keep the distance he wants. I'm talking maps like Antarctica, Peninsula, Icebreaker, Oasis University. I feel like I might benefit from having a close-up brawler in my pool. Any advice? I realize this is a matter of taste, so I would like to hear what you would like to do in these close maps. Am I looking at this wrong? Maybe I can focus on my two best heroes and make it work with a shift in strategy. If you're comfortable with Winston and Sigma, you're right. I would actually say add a close-up brawl hero in your pool. The brawl choices are what? Malga, Zarya, Queen, Orisa, Ramatra, Reinhardt. I would argue that Orisa just got nerfed. Queen is okay, Zarya is okay. I would argue Ryan is okay right now in this patch, and especially if your metal ranks are below. And there's a mid-season patch coming in about 2 weeks, and if there's time to learn, it's now. You can probably play Reinhardt that patch even more because they're changing armor, they're adding more of a tank passive. It's basically leading up to Ryan looking like Ryan might be the meta choice in about 2 weeks, on paper at least. So that could be a good brawl hero, but if not, Ramatra is probably one of the safest. That's what I would do. I think Ramatra is a great hero. Should I prioritize dealing damage or healing as Kiriko? Ooh, I like Kiriko. Great utility character who's pretty much been meta ever since her release. One simple change could not give up on the value of Suzu and Kitsune. However, I have a dilemma now. Do I focus on damage or healing as her? Streamers who do unranked GM all say that Kiriko, you should focus on damage, throwing kunais, playing off angles, only really healing when you can't deal damage or when your allies really need it. And because those are GM streamers, I believe them. Because after all, they are far, far better players than I am. However, there was a recent OWCS event which Flats brought my attention to, and so I decided to watch for some Kiriko plays in said event. After all, OWCS players are the best of the best. The match I was watching in particular was between Team Falcons versus Crazy Raccoon from the latter supports POV, Shu, who exclusively ran Kiriko, and I was dumbfounded upon watching his plays. Shu was mostly heal botting, only ever throwing kunais at the start of the round from choke points when both teams are heading for the objective, or when everyone's fully topped off, which rarely occurred. Even when it came down to duels between theirs and his DPS, he focused on heal botting his DPS instead of throwing kunais to apply pressure on the enemy DPS, and it felt really unusual. And this is after hearing the healing reduction to DPS passive and multitude of Kiriko nerfs. I've seen so many streamers say that you should focus on kunai and off-angle pressure, yet OWCS player Shu was doing the opposite, spending all of his time heal botting and racking up for an instant Kitsune rush to swing the fight into their favor, reminding me very much of the Season 1 League meta. So I'm confused as a Kiriko player. Should I focus on kunais and off-angling to apply pressure, or heal bot to farm for Kitsune rush? Okay, this is a great question because I play a lot of Kiriko as well. I'm obviously not at Shu's level, but I would say I'm pretty proficient at her. I am in the OWCS. Our team is not as good as Shu's team, but you know, had to throw that in there. The TLDR answer is you should prioritize both and whatever makes sense in that specific situation. So when we talk about Shu, the player in an OWCS team with a great team versus a great team, he understands that is the condition for his team there. And in pro coordinated play, Kiriko is completely different than your average ranked play. So when you see other people, you know, teach you always do damage and off angles, that's because that's probably the most effective strategy in an unorganized solo queue environment in diamond, platinum, and below. And that can probably encompass a majority of your games. But a good Kiriko at the highest levels, not even just GM, like OWCS, like GM1 champion level players, they understand what is necessary and required for that specific scenario. So, and it depends on the meta. So I think that that Team Falcons versus Crazy Raccoons game, I think it's an Orisa comp with Shu, and with the Orisa comp in that specific game, your win condition is building a faster Kitsune rush, and going for these cheeky off angles and pro play can get punished very quickly because someone's out of position and it gets a TP force immediately, and then they, like, as a tracer, the enemy tracer just jumps you immediately. So those plays don't work there as well. And then B, heal botting the Orisa, who is taking a brunt of damage, doesn't have a complete shield like Reinhardt. If you're taking space as Orisa, you're going to be soaking bullets. Legitimately, you have damage reduction, but you're taking bullets, which means you always need to be topped off, which builds you the fastest ult charge. I didn't see this VOD, but if Shu is a great Kiriko player, he will also be weaving in 1 or 2 kunais in between the heals, which I am confident he's doing. I think you're saying he's only heal botting, but he is shooting kunais in between whenever it's, you know, free, because that's the weave technique. So the weave technique is you heal your full papers and you shoot 1 kunai, 2 for perfect optimization, but the timing's a little tough. If they're right in front of you, you can shoot 2. If you have to like look left and right with it, it's safer to just throw 1 and then keep healing, throw 1, healing, throw 1. You're thinking of completely ignoring the healing and then just going for non-stop kunais. There will be situations where that makes sense, but for the most part, especially on a neutral poke fight, which is what you're referring to, where everyone's alive and you can't really take strong angles because the enemy tracer is going to mark you and you can't off angle there, he's heal botting, and then they go for a faster Kitsune rush as their win condition to all in. So that situation's very different. Begs the question, should I prioritize the damage or healing as Kiriko? Depends on the situation. For your situation, learning how to take off angles is a harder skill to learn and understand than just simply heal botting. So I would actually encourage you, just like how you mentioned other GM streamers saying focus on off angles and thing, I would also like to encourage that playstyle because it's harder to learn and harder to teach and harder to understand your full risk and reward and when to escape. That's only possible if you actually go for it. And then heal botting is just a safe, easy play. So once you do that, don't just tunnel vision on always doing that, but understand there will be a time that you do have to back off, play for the condition of your team to build the fast Kitsune rush and pocket the tank. And sometimes if your tank is just taking a little damage in a certain comp, but you have the freedom to shoot more kunais, you can do that and only really top them off again when there's a very, very open situation to do so. But if not, if you're have a high kill potential area, just go for the kunais and then turn around and do it. A lot of push and pull, figuring out the hero. The answer is not as clear, but hopefully that gives you a good starting point. Final question of the week is Torbjorn slept on? I'm a support main, but I'm looking to expand my DPS hero, which is literally comprised of Widow only at the moment. Obviously, there's more to Torb than just throwing down your turret and spamming the choke with his projectile. I like that he can make the average life of Tracer or Sombra more difficult. I'm just curious about what the community thinks of him, particularly regarding his playstyle and the viability in the higher ranks of play. Would it be worth it to try to pick him up, or is he merely niche pick and situational like Symmetra? I would say Torbjorn isn't necessarily slept on. All the good players know that you can totally play Torb and be fine. This isn't Overwatch 1 where it was like picking Torb was a throw because like his turret was completely different back then. You had to build it up. Torb is not slept on. People understand that if you can't play Tracer, Torb is a great Tracer deterrent, like you said, and a fantastic pick. His burst damage is no joke. His ultimate's good, and he's good spammy and pokey, and can be really brutal up front with his shotguns. People understand his role and how good he is, especially if you're not having a great day on DPS where your aim feels bad. Just play Torb. The turret's guaranteed damage, adds free pressure, simple hero. And that's it for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed. Peace.